that was the evaluation criteria that we've come up with as an entire working group with the consultant team as well as the board team. And then we're starting in our review of alternatives. What we wanted to do was kind of do it as a phased or a high-level approach. So start taking a look first at alternative processes, and there have been, since the plant was tendered and not awarded, there have been a lot of different vendors and equipment suppliers, and even a supplier of precast tankage have been contacting various members of the board and the working group. So what we want to do is not get mired in kind of looking at the little picture things up front. So we want to take a look at the big main process alternatives, come up with the costing for all that. So we got a big picture cost. And then we can sort of drill down and start looking at equipment and sort of the little picture cost, or not the little picture cost, but sort of look at everything from a high level and then see if there's optimization opportunities as we sort of narrow down. And then once we have the process, a pretty good handle on the process and the cost of the process and the evaluation of the process, we want to then take a look at what I call the delivery approach, whether we, if we come up and say this is the optimal way you can save so much money, stay within your grant funding. Now, how's the best way to get from our report to the board to an actual plant operation? And that's what I call the delivery approach, whether it be hiring a consultant similar to what you did. They do a design, it goes out to tender, and the contractor bids on it and builds it, or if you go do a design and build kind of as a hybrid to kind of save time and possibly money, or you do a P3 where you actually bring in another partner to help you. So once we sort of figure out what process we want to recommend, then we'll figure out what delivery method actually makes the most sense to try and implement that. So our current alternative processes and plant configurations that we're looking at is the existing Orbital process as designed. So that's our base case. And then I also called the existing process with value engineering. So that was looking at it saying, okay, is there stuff that we can take out of this thing just to reduce the cost without changing the design, changing the footprint, the size of anything, basically without changing the drawings and the operation, the function. Is there stuff we can take out of it that maybe could be, that you don't need or could be deferred? And like as an example, the headworks of the screens in the grid area tends to be the stinkiest part of a plant. And they've got a biofilter tree odor as well. You're out in the country, not every plant has odor control on its headworks, so that's something you can eliminate. So that kind of thing, that's what I mean by value engineering. Look at things that we can take out to save money but still keep the same function and form of the plant. Other option would be half the Orbital process. So basically just basically drawn, because the plant was designed in 2 trains, you can just kind of draw a line down the middle and cut half of that off. And that's really that second bid that you got from the contractors at 17 million or so. That's really what I mean by that is that half. And then the Orbital process, but with more extensive flow equalization. There was some applied, but I feel we could apply more, so we could actually make everything smaller than that half train that was there already. We also want to look at other mechanical plants. Was the Orbital process, is there a better option? Sequencing batch reactors come to mind as a lower cost option, at lower capital cost option. We also wanted to look at the existing lagoons and could we convert them to area lagoons, which would allow, and with intermittent sand filters, which would allow, currently right now they're batch discharge. So that's what limits the capacity, is that you've got to be able to hold sewage for 6 months when you're between your discharge periods. But if you turn it into a area lagoon with intermittent sand filters, you can run that thing, discharge 365 days of the year, which then increases the capacity of the existing lagoons considerably. And that's also so we had those existing lagoons with intermittent sand filters to deal with ammonia. We can also use what we call tertiary filters. And then also another option is the Sager with tertiary filters. And I'll talk a little bit more about that as we move through. Another option I had was a hybrid aerated lagoon. So basically, instead of taking your plant, I'll explain this a little bit more. Currently, they had the orbital plant in a concrete tank for the actual oxidation ditch. Well, you could turn around and say, well, why build that concrete? I've already got a lagoon that's lined. Maybe if I put some of those aerators or put aerators oxygen into an existing lagoon, then I don't have to build that concrete, and I'll put in the filters, I put in the clarifiers. But again, we'll use as much of the existing lagoons to what best as we can. So I just kind of walk through that a little bit of each of those alternatives. And again, that was currently what's been designed at the plant. Is 2 sets of screens, 2 sets of grit, vortex grit, which is at the front end, 2 orbital oxidation plants, 4 clarifiers, 2 sets of filters, 2 sets of UV with a sludge wetland. And they did have some equalization, but it's more, I think, for spill control, so you don't ever get a plant bypass. But it wasn't extensive equalization. So half the orbital, as I mentioned, you're basically drawing a line down the middle and taking half the away, which was that revised bid or the second bid that you received. So the orbital process, more flow equalization, is basically keeping what you've got there, either in 1 train or 2 trains, and we'll take a look at that. But using equalization storage to bring the size of everything down considerably. One of the opportunities we do have with those existing lagoons, if we go back to this, one of the things the Ministry of the Environment likes you to have is 2 trains. So if anything breaks down, you're not bypassing. One of the opportunities you have, because you've got so much lagoon storage, is you can always go to the ministry and say, if we design this as 1 train, or maybe even double up a couple of these components, but keep that as just a single component, and then do filters, is that if I ever have a major failure of this, I can throw all my flow into that lagoon for a number of days, and as I mentioned, at your peak month, that's 2 months, while we work on this. So it does give you an option to go back to the ministry and say, yeah, we don't have, we're going to skimp on, not skimp is the wrong word, but we're going to have less redundancy than what your guidelines say. But the reason we can get away with that and not impact the environment is that if there was ever a problem, we would just send all the sewage there until we got the problem fixed, and then we'd come back. So that's some of the options that we have with the existing lagoons, and to kind of bring everything down to a smaller footprint and smaller size. So I guess the advantage in my mind of the orbital process is that it does give you a high level of treatment. It's gonna deal, it's gonna give you a pretty good effluent coming out the back end. It does have a small footprint. Because it's a mechanical plant, you can design it in modules to be expanded as needed. The sludge wetland gets retained, and not that that's, I guess that's a feature of the plant. The sludge wetlands are a really low-cost way of dealing with sludge and managing it, but it also gives you some of that FCM money as well. So there is an advantage to having that. Disadvantage is, as you're more than well aware, is high capital cost. Also has a high operating cost, and it does produce sludge on a continuous basis. So it's day in, day out putting